It's day 286 of the Ukrainian resistance. Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform continues its operation today. My name is Vasil Samokhvalov, and joining us right now in our studio is Oleksandr Kharchenko, director at the Energy Industry Research Center. We'll talk about the Ukrainian power grid. There was an attempt of a rocket strike, missile strike, the day before yesterday, so we'd like to ask what are the consequences of that strike. The missile strike, which has taken place the day before yesterday, was a mid-size by our latest estimate. 70 missiles is a large number. That's the number that air defense systems were able to successfully work on, and the physical protection means that were installed on a number of facilities and engineer solutions that were installed in the facilities, and certain solutions were applied in the energy grid, which resulted in absence of large-scale problems in the scale of the national grid. The system kept operating in a stable way. There was significant damage on the power grid installations in certain regions. They were not so serious that it wouldn't have been possible to restore them immediately. And as I checked yesterday, 90% of the consumers afflicted the day before yesterday, they're back on the grid right now. Unfortunately, there is still deficit in the system. We're lacking 17 to 20% of the power generation, or I would rather say transportation than generation, to cover the consumers. That's why the rolling power shutdown schedules are still in place. The most complicated situation are in Kiev and Kharkiv regions. The situation is difficult in Odessa, and we understand that Kherson is out of competition. The reconnection of the city to the grid is still in progress. Step by step, it's being reestablished. There are attacks on the power infrastructure of Kherson. They're taking place every 2 hours or so. The Russian terrorists, in fact, they purposefully continue destroying the facilities. There are emergency teams going on missions in different locations, but still the works are in progress. The restoration is in progress, and we are happy. As the energy technicians, we're ready that the measures taken help to maintain the system, that everybody is still in the grid. The grid is integral, and we keep on restoring it. There is an information. Seems like the Russians, they know where to strike and how to strike. How can it happen? Is it some specific person? Is it their intelligence? Why does it happen in the way it does? Well, first of all, it's not like that they know where to strike and how to strike, but they build a scenario for every single attack. They have targets that they don't usually achieve. However, we know exactly what they were trying to do every single time. But we know that before February 24, 2022, Russia was in the or I'd rather say Ukraine was an integral part of the grid of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. And after February 24, we got disconnected from that grid within a couple of hours. And people who physically did it, they went to their homes and they've heard the explosions of the Russian missiles. So in fact, the Russian power technicians, they know exactly what is located in Ukrainian power grid, just like our technicians know what is where located in Russian and Belarusian power grid. To me, it's a paradox, because we understand that Russian power technicians show it to their military at the level of the maps, like there is a dispatcher post, you have to target there, and they know those people personally. So those Russian technicians, they know those Ukrainian technicians in the dispatcher post personally. They were communicating before, and I honestly hope that the large number of Russian power technicians will end up in The Hague, because the way they act, showing the targets for their military, is beyond evil for me. One more question. Maybe it's a Russian information campaign or psychological warfare. Ukraine, notwithstanding the attacks, keeps exporting the electric power. How to explain to the people that it cannot actually happen physically? How to explain this phenomena to the people? Well, the first fact, the statements about the power export is straight lies. So the people who talk about it, they know exactly that they lie. Secondly, what's going on in the real life and how it happens, how we can see that it's lies in the very specific way. There is an organization called In Swiss on European side, and they have their information space where they post this information about the flows of electric power everywhere, including Ukraine, which is a part of European power grid. And we can see that really there is electric power going out of Ukraine physically, and in the same way it's going back to Ukraine physically. It goes through different parts of the grid usually, but it's better to hide it, but for stabilization of our power grid, there is a way around through Europe. For example, if we need to get power for Kiev, part of it goes through Europe, or the same way it goes for Odessa, coming back to Ukraine through Europe, and it assists to the level of resistance that we can demonstrate at current phase. The resilience of the system that we demonstrate, without such technical solutions, it would be way more difficult for us, and it's the objective reality. It works in this specific way, and in that very specific website there is information posted about the export and import of electric power for all the countries which are the members of this INSUI. So Ukraine, we can see that Ukraine works in balance. We can see the amount of electric power going to Europe and coming back to Ukraine. The questions in the studio. Good afternoon, Yana Koloda, Ukrinform, and my question is as follows. Based on all the losses already suffered by Ukrainian power sector, how many time will it take us to renew it to the pre-war level? Well, we will hardly renew it, rebuild it to the level which was pre-war, because it will be a different configuration. We will have different goals, but let's imagine we already won today and we start rebuilding our power grid. Within 2 weeks, all the consumers would have been living in a normal rolling power shutdown schedule and would know for sure when they will be switched off. Then in the next 2 to 3 months the shutdowns would have been in the past, and people would have been getting electric power on a 24/7 basis. But saying that we will rebuild the system until the pre-war level, we will need 2 to 2.5 years to have normal reserves in a quality and modern way, in view of the fact that we want to have more efficient power grid, something that would include alternative power sources there. That would take 2, maybe 3 years. Thanks a lot. And another question, Ukrainians are being asked to save the power. What are the most simple ways to preserve power? Just don't use it. As soon as you stop using it, you save it. So just don't turn off any electric power devices.
Chris Sampson, National Security Media. Do you have any information on GRU attempts to try to hit the grid from cyber means that they have used in the past, like they did in December 2015 and 2016?
I could be wrong, but in my mind we have from 7,000 and 9,000 cyber attacks per day. All this time, with some peaks in days where we have a missile attack too. automatically it means that before and in time of missile attack we have some peak of cyber attacks. But we was well prepared, no any success.
Follow-up question when you're ready.
Charlie Hansen with the Davenport International Foundation and the Hansen Gazette. Can you tell us something about any aid that's coming from outside Ukraine, NATO? Is it helpful? What is being supplied? What is lacked? What more should be done that's not being done?
I could say that it's a lot of aid which moving. A lot of aid in discussion. We have really huge support from side of our Western partners and colleagues on different levels, even from like companies, and we have some example when people in Poland or in Germany, some energy staff take the weekends to move some equipment to Ukraine. At the same time, on national level, it's a well-organized group led by J7. And now we have a lot of, I could say, direction how the support moving to us. We already have some from Baltic countries, something from Poland, and moving more and more. The main area where we really need help from international partners now is high voltage network restoration. It means we need high voltage transformers. And just to give you an understanding, what is it? It's weight like 250 tons and size like 2 railroad cars. And it's exclusively high tech, which even to produce you need to spend several months, as it's never produced for storage. It is always an order. That now we are working to order it around the world together with our partners with financial support, with organizational support, that we are really in very active dialogue and we have a lot of support.
Я тут можу доуточню, чи можливо у нас такі сценарії, що ми від радянських або російських рішень
I would like to detailize, is it possible that we will switch from Soviet solutions in the power grid to more up-to-date European and Western solutions, because now we're facing the problem that, yeah, we don't have opportunity to get these technical solutions. This is exactly what's happening now. This is a great job, and Ukraine as a candidate of to the EU members, we are obliged to do so. We have to switch to EU standards in all aspects of technological operation of power grid. This work is in progress. We rearm our power grid with European, or I would say rather Western equipment using Western standards, because it's currently a mix between the European and other solutions. And yes, this work is actively in progress. Another question, please.
Sean Carrier, Yahoo News. My understanding is there were around more than 60 power stations running throughout the country. Do you have any figures about how many power stations are still in operation, how many have been damaged, and if any, how many are offline?
When we're talking about power station, first of all, you have to understand that they don't attack equipment. In many times, they attack electrical substation, which is responsible to move electricity from the station generator to the power grid. That's the main focus of all attack. If we are talking about this part of power generation, all of them damaged or destroyed. Absolutely all of them. As well, I could say that near 50% of power generation capacity also damaged in other way. It means it was shelves or missile or something which damage our coal generation in different way.
Howard Dotson, Howie's Art Circles. I was just wondering if there's any coordination so that when there is a lack of energy, that people get assistance to go to where there is energy? And what's the relationship between electricity and access to clean water and heat?
First of all, it's a direct connection.
Yeah.
Without electricity, you have no option to provide water and heating. That's why now we have a very huge focus for backup our water channels and heating, district heating, everything connected to this critical utility by the different backup of generation. Generators, gas turbine, electricity generators, and everything related. That's a big focus right now. It's not possible to cover everything, but it's possible to cover some critical elements.
Я так думаю, що це було останнє питання, тим більше, що ми маємо.
I think it was the last question for this briefing. We're having our next briefing shortly. We want to appreciate the participation of Mr. Oleksandr Kharchenko, director of the Energy Industry Research Center, who told us about the consequences of the last missile strike. Thank you. See you shortly.
One more question. The private cybersphere, British intelligence and others have said that they brought in private companies to